Hello. Let's come back to lecture 5. And this is the third part of the lecture 5, focusing on social cognitive perspective. So in this lecture, we are going to cover the kappa model as well as going through the critical evaluation as we did for other theories as well. And the K-part model or K-part model of personality is one of the most important contribution by the social cognitive theory of personality. And the full name of this model is Knowledge and Appraisal Personality Architecture, which means that knowledge and appraisal are the most important uh, concepts in this model. And through the knowledge and appraisal process and architect the personality of a person. It is the social cognitive theory of personality that describes the psychological system underlying both the consistency and variability in a person's behavior, which means it covers uh, addresses the gap. For example, the trait theory without looking into the variability among the population of individual. And for Freud's theory, lack of evidence of the consistency of a person always focus on the abnormal part of the person rather than looking into the consistency of the person in terms of personality. And this model believes that personality arises from the interaction of knowledge structures we mentioned in the last lecture. Knowledge structures including beliefs, goals, and standard evaluation standards. And also the appraisal process, the interaction of knowledge structure and appraisal process. And appraisal process means how individuals interpret the situation. So this is the appraisal, how the individual appraise the situation, the current situation. And this is the basic concepts of this kappa model. And there are two types of social cognitive personality variables. One is knowledge, and including the structure of knowledge, enduring mental representations of one's personal qualities and aspiration, including aspiration as well. For example, believing that you are intelligent, but have issues dealing with stress. So these are the quality and as well as the aspiration for the person. Believe that you are smart, you are intelligent, and you can solve lots of problems, but still have issues to solve the stress situation, to deal with stressful situation. Another important type of the variable is the appraisal process. So this is a process, knowledge is a structure, and appraisal is a process. It's an ongoing appraisal process of the relation between oneself and the surrounding or upcoming environment. So this is the self, the person and the environment, the interaction between the self and the environment. For example, you plan to do well in PY3108, but you don't have time to study because you have a full-time job and also you need to look after your family and you have lots of commitments. And then you conduct an appraisal process, what to do. Maybe skip other subjects, focusing on 3108. So this is the process, how we appraise, how we evaluate the situation and come up with an idea. The knowledge structures, the goals, and for example, the goals influence the appraisal process. For example, doing well in PY3108, it's a goal as well. Then we evaluate what to do if I want to do well in PY3108 because I just have limited time to study. Then I make the decision. I skip other subjects. I focus on one subject this semester, this trimester. This is the appraisal process. Main assessment goals are to identify. So the assessment goal for kappa model is to identify knowledge structures that are most significant. Which one is the most significant? For example, among several goals, which one is the most important one? And then the appraisal process to think about challenges. Okay, this is the most important knowledge structure. And I need to think about the challenges if I want to achieve the goal. And during this process, evaluate what I can do to achieve the most important goal. And also this framework, this model is framed around two principles. One is sensitive to context. The environmental figure is important for the personality. And also it's sensitive to idiosyncrasy. And idiosyncrasy is peculiar or unusual personal habit, trait, or characteristic. For example, Dr. Sheldon, always sitting in the same spot at home. This is my spot. When he was not sitting on this spot, he's irritated, he's confused, he's angry, he's not confident at all, and behave in a way that is weird. And also for some people, cracking their knuckles when nervous, for example, cricket have those knuckles and making some noises when nervous. And also for some people needing to listen to a specific song to fall asleep, or only use a certain phrase to say goodbye, no other way at all, just one way to say goodbye. So this is sensitive in the kappa model as well during the assessment, during the appraisal process. Self-schemas can produce cross-situational consistency. This is how the personality of a person to be stable. Self-schemas are dynamic, organized structures of belief about oneself, which influence how the individual encode and interpret information, guide individuals' behavior, and shape their identity. It's about, just like in the cartoon, it's about the self-image and organized in a structured self-knowledge as well. Self-schemas are not fixed traits, but rather they are working structures that include knowledge of one's ability, feeling, expected actions in different situations. So it's the self-knowledge about the self, how I will behave in this situation, in that situation. And self-schemas are integral to the kappa models focus on the functional and process-based aspect of personality. So it's not focused on the steel traits, but rather it's a process-based. Personality is a process-based, and it may change and from time to time, and people may behave differently in different situations. So this is the function of self-schema in personality according to the kappa model. Another beliefs or another theory, another notion in the Kappa model is that patterns of cross-situational consistency can vary in different situations and also varied idiosyncratically. Because individuals are different, they behave differently across situations, with some being more rigid, for example, Sheldon, and others being more adaptable, being more flexible. And this variation arises from the interplay between the personal cognitive factors, so remember cognitive, and environmental influence, that's the social and behavioral patterns. So this is the social factors and cognitive factors work together. And the interpretation of situations and the resulting behaviors are not uniform. And it can be unique to each person. So this is a big difference between Kappa model and trace model, because for trace, from the perspective of trace theory, and in this group of people, for example, extrovert, people with extrovert scores, high in extrovert scores, and the trace theory believe they behave quite similarly. But for Kappa models, theorists, they believe that the interaction plays a big role in the personality. So everyone is unique, everyone's different. And this is an important notion in the therapy, belief that everyone's unique. And this is the comparison between trace methodology and Kappa methodology. On the left-hand side, there's the trait construct. For example, there's neuroticism, and then under neuroticism, we can see just like a race, and seeing the situation, 1, 2, 3, different situations and different combinations for the trait constructs. And before the Kappa model is from the person, and the self-schema A, self-schema B, self-schema C working together to in different situations. It's not just, for example, situation 1, 2, 3 is only self-schema A. No. The situation 1, 2, 3 may have the influence of self-schema 1, self-schema B may function together in the situation 1 to 3, and then 4 to 5 maybe have schema A, schema 3, and schema B, schema C, and to collectively work together with the influence from the environmental factors as well. So as you can see, it's different. For trait theory, okay, identify the trait first. But for the trait is the personality. And but for cognitive social psychology, social cognitive therapists in the Kappa model, that it's based on the schema, different schema working together in different situations. And also the knowledge, the self-schema is the knowledge, and then the situation is the appraisal process. So let's use a specific participants in Caron's 2004 study. So this is a participant, and it's a female participant, and she identified the self-schema. One is she can have a good time naturally. Another is she can be grabby and bitchy. And these two schemas are quite different, isn't it? And then she identified there are different situations there. For example, be yourself with group of new friends, then this participant found she can have a good time naturally, be herself. But reveal true self on a date, she found that the self schema of being crabby and bitchy is the schema to be functioned during this situation, revealing true self on a date. Chastise idle members of work project, and she felt that she could be crabby and bitchy, remain calm if cut off in traffic, for example, stop in the traffic lights again and again, and she can be crabby and bitchy, but in the situation entertain a crowd at a party with jokes, she feels she can have a good time naturally. So this is the way how kappa works. Identify the self-schema, self-knowledge, and then to see in which situation that this self-schema play a dominant role, and in what situation another schema plays a dominant roles in personality. So this is the schema, how schema work in different situation. And of course, during the situation with the schema, the appraisal process was working as well. And this is the way that how kappa model works. Okay, let's look into the critical evaluation again for this particular theory, the social cognitive theory. And also we use the 5 criteria again. And the first one, observation that is scientific or not. Social cognitive theory has been built on a systematic accumulation of objective scientific evidence with lots of studies supporting the theory, and also has wide range methodologies, diverse populations. So what's the answer for this? A tick or a question mark? Maybe a tick. And theory that is systematic, social cognitive theory did not provide an overarching network of assumptions that coherently tied together all elements of the theoretical perspective. And this approach sometimes functions more as a strategy or a framework for studying personality rather than a fully specified theory. So maybe a question mark? Theory that's testable. And from what we have discussed, and social cognitive theorists unquestionably have succeeded in providing a personality theory that is testable. So particularly, for example, self-efficacy, I have used my own research findings to support the concept of self-efficacy. So this is a big take. And theory that is comprehensive, and social cognitive theorists have addressed questions of motivation, development, self-concepts, self-control, and behavioral change. So it's quite comprehensive. Even addresses a topic that is skipped in most other personality theories, the learning of social skills and other behavioral competency. So the learning process often ignored in other personality theory, but social cognitive theory did a very good job in this aspect. But sometimes overlooked biological feature or personality focusing more on the environmental and social factors, and overlooked the biological factors in personality. So maybe a question mark? Application, yeah, absolutely. And for the clinical context, in our previous lectures, we talk about the clinical application. So also there are lots of books that were central to professional training of clinicians from the social cognitive perspective. So maybe a big take. So according to our evaluation, observation that is scientific is a big take. Theory that is systematic, maybe a question mark is more about a framework rather than a specific theory. And the theory is testable, yes, and comprehensive. We gave it a question mark because it overlooks the biological factors and application. That's absolutely a big take. Well, thank you so much. And this is the end of the lecture 5, the part 3, part C. And if you have any question about the social cognitive theory, just please email me or ask questions in the tutorial. Thank you so much. See you soon in the next lecture.